Well, greetings. This is old Doc Hatfield, Preacher Man Piper, coming to you. This is a kind of hard for me to read it. This is a rinse pipe that I got at the pipe show in Columbia, Tennessee, and I'm smoking Granger in it. That is when I get it lit. It's a little bit of work to get her lit. I've been asked by several people what I did for a living before I ended up in a chair like this and before I was retired. And what I did for a living was I was an evangelist. And I've now been an evangelist for 61 years. Preached all over the western United States. Preached in some eastern states. I was a gospel concert pianist. Can't do too well at that anymore because of my hands and the arthritis, but anyway, that's just the way it is. Got me 4 14-ounce tins of Sir Walter Raleigh in the mail today. And I got me 4 tins of that tobacco, which is pretty good stuff. I like it really well. One story I don't think I've ever told is that way back years ago, more years than I want to count, when you get to be 76, you kind of got a bunch of them years to look at. But in our town, we were having somebody going around breaking into homes, and raping the women in those homes, stealing from them. And one particular night, summertime, I started hearing blood-curdling screams. Well, I come up out of my bed. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. I come up out of my bed and grabbed a Smith & Wesson 357 and ran out the door. Listening for those screams, kept hearing them, and when I got out there, across the street, there was a house on fire. And there was a man standing out by a big oak tree. Just standing there, leaning up against it with his hand up against that tree and watching this fire. Well, I ran over there and I hollered at this guy, and I could hear sirens in the distance, and knew that somebody had called the fire department probably. I asked this guy, I said, "Is anybody in that house?" He didn't answer me. He just looked at me. I hollered at him again. I said, "Is anybody in that house?" And about that time, other people had come up and were standing there, and I went around to the side of the house. They had a back door at the side of the house, and I looked through that back door, and I could see two little old legs just swinging. I mean, between a washer and a dryer. And without even thinking, I ran into that house with it on fire like that, and I grabbed this little kid and brought him back out. And a fireman was there whenever I brought him back out, and they said, "Oh my goodness." And about that time we heard another scream, and I looked up, and there was a woman standing in a window. And there were two children looking out that window. And that room was engulfed in flames, and everything around it was engulfed in flames. And that night, that woman and 6 of her children died in that fire. The only one that didn't die was the baby that I brought out from between the washer and dryer, and a 12-year-old girl who had spent the night at a friend's house. This man that stood against that tree had gone in that house and lit all the curtains in the downstairs and in the living room and stuff, just put them on fire, and came back out and just stood there. He literally burned his family alive. I went over there and I grabbed him. I started hitting him. And finally 2 policemen came over there and grabbed me and pulled me away from him. He turned and started to try to run, and 2 other policemen come up and grabbed him, and I said, "That family just burned to death up there in that house, and nobody could get to it. We never did know why he did that. His daughter grew up and became a policewoman. The little boy eventually died after a couple of weeks because of the smoke inhalation and because of the severe burns on his body. And when I laid that baby in that fireman's arms, I had his skin stuck to me here on both arms. I'm just fortunate that I didn't get burned and scarred. You say, what causes a person to do that? A person does that has no conscience, that has no reason to be living. The family, the relatives of those that died, called me and asked me if I would do their funeral, and then a couple of weeks later I did the funeral of that little boy. They didn't know me from Adam, but they appreciated what I'd done to try to save that little boy. That 12-year-old girl she called me Daddy up until the day she died. She got cancer and it ate her alive, and she died when she was just about 46, I think, 46 or 47. Well, that's another story. I know at times I have funny stories, but at times I have sad stories that just shows that that's life. I've had several people ask me what I sounded like when I preached. I have another channel called Preacher Man in a Wheelchair. And starting this week, it'll be probably tomorrow night that I start, but starting this week, I'm going to once a week preach a message on there that I would preach if I was in a revival preaching. And every week I will preach one message till 7 weeks. I've preached a full week revival. That you'll see what I preached. Been asked over the years if I ever felt like God called me to pastor, and no, God didn't call me to pastor. He called me to evangelize. And he called me to to preach the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ to this lost and dying world. Well, that's about it for me. So I'm going to get out of here, finish up this pipe. I hope everybody has a good weekend. Hope you enjoy a pipe and some good tobacco. So until then, may the good Lord watch over you, take care of you, supply your every need, take care of every circumstance in your life. So until next time, I'll see you. Bye-bye.